chosen one. Can you feel it? That trembling in your chest right now, that's not anxiety, that's recognition. Something has been hidden from you, something sacred, something so close you could have touched it with your fingertips, but you didn't know to reach. And now heaven itself is pulling back the veil. But let me ask you something. Why did their eyes linger when they thought you weren't looking? Why did your spirit stir every time they walked into the room, like your soul recognized something your mind couldn't name? And why? Why is God choosing this moment right now, today, to reveal what they've been carrying in silence? Listen to me carefully. You didn't stumble onto this message by accident. You were led here, not by algorithm, not by chance, but by divine appointment. Because what you're about to discover will split your life into 2 chapters, before you knew and after. I want you to do something right now. Type "I'm ready" in the comments, not as a formality, but as a declaration. Because your engagement isn't just interaction, it's prophetic alignment. It's you telling heaven, yes, I'm ready to see what's been hidden. Now, let me speak to your heart. You've lived long enough to know that some pain doesn't make noise. Some wounds don't bleed where anyone can see them. You've carried decades of silent battles, nights so long the darkness felt like a language only you understood. Moments where you wondered if anyone truly saw you, if anyone knew the weight you carried behind that smile. And maybe someone did. Maybe there's been someone walking beside you in this story, someone who saw everything. Your strength when you had every reason to break. Your grace when bitterness would have been easier. Your faith when the world gave you every excuse to let go. And they've been holding something. A truth, a confession, a revelation so tender, so holy, that even angels paused to guard it until the appointed time. That time is now. Before we go deeper, I want to honor those of you who've supported this ministry through super thanks. Your generosity isn't just a donation, it's seed sowing in faith. You're helping this light reach others who feel invisible in their calling. Whether you give or simply stay and listen, I'm grateful, deeply. Your presence here matters more than you know. Now, take a breath, because what comes next will shake something loose in your spirit that's been waiting a lifetime to be freed. You will never be the same after knowing what this person hid from you. Let's begin. 2. Setting the spiritual scene, the stillness before God speaks. Have you felt it lately? That strange silence that wraps around you when you're alone. Not empty silence, but silence that feels full, like something unseen is holding its breath, waiting for you to finally understand what's been there all along. That's not loneliness, beloved. That's the stillness before God speaks. And right now, in this very moment, heaven is leaning in. The angels have gone quiet. The atmosphere around you has shifted, not because something is wrong, but because something holy is about to be revealed. You know what I'm talking about. You've felt it in your bones. It's like the air in the room changed, like the wind itself stopped blowing just to listen, like time slowed down, and your spirit became aware of a presence you couldn't name but could feel pressing against your chest. That wasn't your imagination, that was divine preparation. God doesn't speak into chaos. He speaks into stillness. And He's been preparing you, preparing your heart, softening the soil of your soul, so that when this truth is finally spoken, you'll be ready to receive it without walls, without fear, without running. But I need to be honest with you. This stillness, it hasn't been easy, has it? Because in the quiet, you've had to face things. You've had to sit with yourself. You've had to remember all the times you felt overlooked, all the moments when you walked into a room and wondered if anyone truly saw you. Not your face, not your smile, but you, the real you, the one carrying weight no one asked about. You've been the strong one for so long, the one who holds it together, the one who shows up even when you're falling apart inside, the one who smiles through the ache because you've learned that nobody really wants to know the truth when they ask, "How are you?" So you stopped answering honestly. You stopped sharing your burdens because it felt like nobody could carry them with you. You convinced yourself it was easier to walk alone than to risk being a burden to someone else. And over the years, decade after decade, you learned to hold things in, the grief, the disappointment, the loneliness that comes not from being alone, but from being unseen in a crowded room. Am I right? Listen to me. You've wondered if anyone cared. You've questioned if your presence mattered. You've carried burdens in silence because you thought no one was watching. But all this time, someone was. Not to judge you, not to criticize or condemn, but to pray. While you were fighting battles in the dark, thinking you were alone, someone saw you. And they didn't just see your struggle, they saw your strength. They didn't just notice your pain, they noticed your perseverance. They watched the way you loved even when love hurt you, the way you believed even when belief cost you, the way you kept going even when giving up would have been easier. And something stirred in their spirit, something they couldn't name at first, something they didn't even know how to put into words, but it grew, day by day, prayer by prayer, until it became a truth so heavy, so sacred, that they've been carrying it in silence, waiting for heaven's permission to release it. Now let me take you deeper, because Scripture tells us something powerful in Hebrews 4:13. Nothing in all creation is hidden from God's sight. Everything is uncovered and laid bare before the eyes of Him to whom we must give account. Think about that. Nothing hidden stays hidden. God sees everything. Every tear you cried in secret. Every prayer you whispered when you thought no one was listening. Every act of kindness you gave when no one was watching. Every moment you chose grace over bitterness, faith over fear, love over anger. And if God saw it all, do you think He would keep it hidden forever? No. He's a God of revelation, a God who pulls back curtains, a God who exposes truth not to shame, but to heal, not to embarrass, but to elevate, not to wound, but to awaken. And right now, He's doing exactly that. This person, this soul who's been watching you, praying for you, carrying this confession, they're part of God's plan to show you something you've forgotten, that you are seen, that you are valued, that your life has mattered more than you ever knew. But here's where it gets urgent, because the enemy doesn't want you to hear this. He's been working overtime to keep you distracted, to keep you numb, to keep you believing the lie that you're invisible, that you're forgotten, that your pain doesn't matter, and your presence doesn't make a difference. He wants you to dismiss this moment, to click away, to shut down your heart before the truth lands. Why? Because once you hear what this person has been hiding, once you see yourself through their eyes, through God's eyes, you'll never be the same. You'll walk differently, speak differently, carry yourself differently. You'll stop shrinking. You'll stop apologizing for taking up space. You'll stop living small when God carved out a kingdom-sized calling on your life. And the enemy knows that. So, he'll whisper doubts right now. He'll tell you this message isn't for you, that you're reading too much into it, that you should protect yourself and not get your hopes up. But I'm telling you, that's a lie straight from the pit of hell. This is for you. You were led here, guided here, drawn here by a force stronger than curiosity. This is divine orchestration. And if you'll just stay just a few more minutes, you'll hear something that will crack open the door to a future you thought was closed forever. So, let me ask you something. What if someone has been holding the key to your healing all along, and they've just been waiting for heaven's signal to hand it to you? What if the very thing you've been praying for, the confirmation, the validation, the knowing that you matter, is about to be spoken out loud by someone who's been too afraid to say it until now? What if this moment right here, right now, is the hinge your entire life has been turning on? You feel that? That pressure in your chest, that warmth behind your eyes, that stirring in your spirit. That's not emotion. That's recognition. Your soul knows what's coming, even if your mind is still catching up, even if fear is whispering. Don't believe it. Your spirit is standing at attention because it remembers the promise God made over your life before you were born. And now, that promise is about to be confirmed through the voice of another. So stay with me, because what comes next will not only reveal what they've been hiding, it will reveal who you've always been in the eyes of heaven. And beloved, you are not ready for how beautiful that truth is. 3. The reveal begins. The person who saw what you couldn't. Do you know what it feels like to be truly seen? Not admired, not noticed, but seen down to the marrow of your soul, where even you are afraid to look. And what if I told you someone has been watching you all this time, not with judgment, but with the eyes of heaven itself? Listen closely. There is someone closer than you ever realized. Someone who's been walking through your story, not as a spectator, but as a silent guardian. And they've been carrying a truth about you so profound, so sacred, that even the angels of God paused mid-flight to bear witness to it. This isn't about romance. This isn't about attraction. This is about intercession. You see, while the world glanced at your surface, your smile, your strength, your ability to keep moving, this person saw deeper. They saw the fractures you hid, the weight you carried in silence, the nights you cried when no one was watching, the prayers you whispered when your voice was too tired to speak them aloud. And something stirred in their spirit. Not pity, not sympathy, recognition. They recognized the fingerprint of God on your life. They saw the anointing you couldn't see in yourself. While you doubted, they believed. While you questioned your worth, they were on their knees asking heaven to protect what God was building in you. Proverbs 27:19 says, "As water reflects the face, so one's life reflects the heart." This person became a mirror, not to show you your flaws, but to reflect back the glory you'd forgotten you carried. They didn't just pray for you. They prayed over you. They spoke your name in the secret place. They stood in the gap when the enemy was closing in. They asked God to give you strength when you didn't have the words to ask for yourself. And heaven listened. Do you understand what that means? It means that when you felt most alone, you weren't. When you thought no one cared, someone was interceding. When you walked through valleys so dark you couldn't see your own feet, this person was holding up a lamp before the throne of God, asking him to guide your steps. Romans 8:26 tells us, "The Spirit helps us in our weakness. We do not know what we ought to pray for, but the Spirit himself intercedes for us through wordless groans." And God placed that same spirit of intercession into this person's heart for you. Now here's where it gets deeper. This person didn't just see your struggles. They saw your calling. While others saw your mistakes, they saw your destiny. While the world labeled you by your past, they saw your future written in the palm of God's hand. They recognized something the enemy tried desperately to keep hidden from you, that you were chosen long before you ever felt ready. Jeremiah 1-5 declares, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." And this person? They saw that truth before you did. They watched you serve when you were exhausted. They saw you love when your heart was breaking. They witnessed your faithfulness in the small things, the things no one applauds, the things that go unnoticed. But nothing is hidden from those who walk in the Spirit. And they didn't just watch, they honored it. While you questioned whether you were enough, they were asking God to give you the revelation of who you truly are. They saw the mantle resting on your shoulders, the divine assignment embedded in your DNA, the spiritual authority you were too humble to claim. But here's what breaks my heart. You had no idea. You walked past them 1,000 times, unaware that their prayers were the invisible shield keeping hell's attacks from landing. You smiled politely, made small talk, never knowing that when they said, "I'll be praying for you," they meant it with a fervency that shook heaven. James 5:16 says, "The prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective." And beloved, they prayed righteously over your life, not with performance, not with religion, with tears, with travail, with the kind of groaning that only comes when someone is standing between you and the devourer saying, "No, not this one. This one belongs to God." Now let me tell you what they've been hiding. It's not a secret agenda. It's not manipulation. It's revelation. What they've been holding back is the truth of who you really are. They've seen the light in you that you've been too broken to believe in. They've seen the power in you that trauma tried to bury. They've seen the glory resting on your life that shame tried to convince you didn't exist. And they've been waiting for the right moment, waiting for God's green light, waiting until your spirit was strong enough to receive it without collapsing under the weight of it. Because some truths are too heavy to hear when you're not ready. Some revelations require a prepared heart, and heaven has been preparing yours. Ecclesiastes 3:1 says, "There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens." And chosen one, this is your season, the season where the veil is lifted, where what was hidden comes to light, where the person who saw you when you couldn't see yourself finally speaks the words that will change everything. But here's what you need to understand. When they speak, when this truth finally breaks the surface, it won't just validate you, it will activate you. Because some words aren't just affirmations, they're prophetic decrees. And when this person opens their mouth and releases what heaven gave them to carry, something inside you will shift. Chains you didn't even know you were wearing will shatter. Lies you've believed for decades will crumble, and you will stand in the mirror and see yourself, truly see yourself for the first time, not as the world defined you, not as your pain labeled you, but as God named you before the foundation of the world. Pause. Let that sink in. You are standing at the edge of a divine unveiling. This person didn't just admire you from a distance. They interceded for you in the secret place. They saw your calling when you were blind to it. They recognized heaven's fingerprint on your life when you thought you were forgotten. And now, the silence is breaking. The confession is coming. And once you hear it, once you understand what they've been holding, you will never walk the same way again. So I ask you now, are you ready to see yourself the way heaven sees you? Are you ready to receive the truth that's been hidden, not to hurt you, but to heal you, to awaken you, to launch you into everything God has been preparing you for? Because what comes next will divide your life into before and after. For the hidden truth, the confession God has been preparing for years. Why do some words burn in the throat but never reach the lips? Why does truth sometimes feel too sacred to speak, even when heaven itself commanded it? And why would God seal a message inside another person's heart, knowing you needed to hear it years ago? Chosen one, we're standing at the threshold now, the place where silence ends and revelation begins. What I'm about to share with you isn't speculation. It's not wishful thinking. This is what the Spirit has been whispering in the secret place. This is what your angels have been guarding. This is the truth someone has been carrying like a burning coal in their chest, unable to swallow it, unable to release it until this very moment. They have held back words that were never theirs to keep. Words heaven wrote. Words meant for your healing, your identity, your destiny. Think of it like this. Imagine a letter sealed by God Himself, written in eternity, addressed to you by name, but instead of sending it through the wind or the stars, He placed it in the trembling hands of someone who walks this earth beside you, someone who sees you, someone who knows the weight you carry even when you smile, and for reasons only heaven understands, that letter has remained folded, tucked in the pocket of someone too afraid, too reverent, too unsure of the timing to deliver it. But the seal is breaking now. The appointed hour has come, and what's inside that letter will undo you in the most beautiful way. Listen closely. There are confessions born from attraction. There are words spoken because emotions overflow. But this is different. This confession didn't start in their mind. It started in the throne room. It was conceived in prayer. It was woven in the hours they spent on their knees asking God about you, asking if what they saw in you was real, asking if they were allowed to feel what they felt, asking for permission to speak. And God said, "Not yet." So they waited, and while they waited, the confession grew. It deepened, it matured. It became less about what they wanted and more about what heaven was revealing. Because, here's the mystery, chosen one. This person doesn't just see your face, they see your calling. They don't just notice your presence, they discern your anointing. And what they've been holding back isn't flattery, it's prophecy. Pause with me for a moment. Can you feel the weight of that? Somewhere, someone has been seeing you the way God sees you. Not through the lens of your mistakes, not through the filter of your past, not even through the limitations you've placed on yourself. They've been watching you through the eyes of the Spirit. And what they've seen has left them undone. You want to know what this truth is. You want to know what they've been hiding. Here it is. They see in you what you've forgotten about yourself. They see the strength you think you've lost, the light you believe has dimmed, the purpose you thought time had stolen. While you've been walking through your days questioning if you still matter, if you're still chosen, if God still has plans for you, they've been watching you like someone watches the sunrise, with awe, with reverence, with the kind of knowing that only comes when the Holy Spirit opens your eyes. Proverbs 20:5 says, "The purposes of a person's heart are deep waters, but one who has insight draws them out." And this person, they've been given insight, not to manipulate you, not to control you, but to see you, to recognize what heaven placed inside you before you were even born, to honor the fingerprints of God still fresh on your life. They've watched you love when it cost you everything. They've seen you give when your own hands were empty. They've witnessed your faith stand firm when the ground beneath you was shaking, and every single time something in their spirit whispered, "This one is marked, this one is different, this one carries heaven." But here's where it gets deeper. They didn't just see your strength, they saw your scars, and instead of turning away, they leaned in because they recognized something most people miss. Your wounds aren't weaknesses, they're witnesses. Every place you've been broken and still chose to rise, that's not failure. That's the signature of God rewriting your story in real time. Job 23:10 declares, "But he knows the way that I take. When he has tested me, I will come forth as gold." And this person sees the gold. While others saw the fire and assumed you were burning out, they saw the refining. While others watched you struggle and called it defeat, they saw you being shaped for something greater. They've been in the audience of your life, and what they've witnessed isn't a tragedy. It's a testimony still being written. And now, the question rises again. Why didn't they speak sooner? Because some truths are too holy to rush. Because heaven has timing that doesn't bend to human impatience. Because God was preparing both of you, not just them to speak, but you to receive. Think about it. If they had confessed this a year ago, would you have believed them? If they had spoken this truth when you were buried in grief, drowning in doubt, suffocating under shame, would your heart have been soft enough to let it land? No. You would have deflected it, dismissed it, convinced yourself they didn't really see you, that they were mistaken, that they only saw the mask, not the mess. But now you've been through the wilderness. Now you've walked through valleys so dark you couldn't see your own hand in front of your face. Now you've cried prayers so desperate they didn't even form into words. And in that breaking, in that stripping, in that surrender, God made space. He hollowed out the places where pride used to live. He cleared out the rooms where fear used to rule. And now, finally, there's room for truth to enter. Ecclesiastes 3:1 reminds us, "There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens. And chosen one, this is your season." The confession that's coming isn't just about affection, it's about affirmation. It's heaven using a human voice to say what you stopped believing about yourself, that you are seen, that you are valued, that you are chosen not in some distant theological way, but in this moment, in this life, by someone whose prayers have been circling your name like incense rising to the throne. So let me ask you directly, if your spirit is stirring right now, if something deep inside you is saying, yes, this is real type, speak, Lord, in the comments, because your response isn't just engagement, it's agreement. It's you opening the door to what heaven is trying to release. Now brace yourself, because when this person finally speaks, when they finally open their mouth and let the truth pour out, it won't just be their words you're hearing. It will be the echo of every prayer God heard when you thought no one was listening. It will be the answer to every midnight question you whispered into the dark. It will be the proof that even in your loneliest hour, you were never, ever alone. And once you hear it, once it lands in your spirit and takes root in your soul, you will never walk the same way again. So the question is no longer what they've been hiding. The question is, are you ready to know? The spiritual signature, what they saw in you. Now, let me tell you what they saw. Not what you showed the world, not the version you carefully constructed each morning before stepping outside, but what they saw when heaven opened their eyes. They saw your brokenness, and they called it bravery. They saw your scars, and they called them sacred. They saw your silence, and they didn't try to fill it with empty words. They prayed for your peace. Do you understand what I'm telling you? You thought no one noticed how tired you were, but they did. They saw it in the way your shoulders carried weight that wasn't yours to carry. They saw it in the half-second pause before you smiled, that split moment when your soul forgot to pretend. They noticed how you said, "I'm fine," while your eyes were screaming something completely different. And while the world kept moving past you, blind and distracted, this person stopped. They didn't just see you, they witnessed you. There's a difference. Psalm 139 tells us, "You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar." That's what God does. But sometimes, He assigns someone on earth to see you the way He sees you, to recognize what others miss, to hold up a mirror that doesn't reflect your face, but your soul. And that's what happened. This person became heaven's mirror in your life. They saw you on the days when you barely recognized yourself, when grief had carved lines so deep in your spirit you wondered if joy would ever find its way back, when disappointment had its hands around your throat and you kept smiling anyway because you didn't want to burden anyone else. You thought you were walking alone, but you weren't. Heaven assigned someone to carry the weight in prayer when you couldn't lift it anymore. Think about that. While you were lying awake at 3 a.m., wrestling with questions that had no answers, trying to make sense of loss that made no sense, they were praying your name. While you sat in rooms full of people and felt completely invisible, wondered if your voice even mattered anymore, they were asking God to remind you of your worth. While you questioned whether you had anything left to give, whether your best years were behind you, whether anyone still saw the light you used to carry, they were interceding for your restoration. You didn't know, but heaven knew. And now you need to understand something that's going to break you open in the most beautiful way. This is the truth they hid. You have never been ordinary. Not to them, not to heaven, not for a single day of your life. You have been someone's intercession, someone's calling, someone's divine assignment. Let that sink in. All those moments you felt forgotten, God had stationed a watchman on the wall of your life. All those nights you cried alone, someone was crying with you before the throne of grace. All those times you thought your pain was invisible, it was being transformed into prayers that moved heaven. The enemy wanted you to believe you were isolated, that no one cared, that your struggles were yours alone to bear. But that was a lie. 1 Thessalonians 5:11 says, "Therefore encourage one another and build each other up." This person wasn't just encouraged by you. They were built up by watching you stand when everything in you wanted to fall, by seeing you choose faith when doubt would have been easier, by witnessing your refusal to become bitter even when life gave you every reason. Do you know what that did for them? It gave them courage they didn't have. It showed them that survival wasn't just possible, it was sacred. That endurance wasn't weakness, it was warfare. You became their evidence that God still moves. And they've been holding that truth like a treasure, waiting for the right moment to give it back to you. But here's what breaks my heart. You thought no one was watching. So, you stopped seeing yourself clearly. You started believing the whispers, the ones that said you were too old to matter, too broken to be used, too scarred to be beautiful, too late to start again. And this person watched you shrink, watched you dim your own light, watched you apologize for taking up space in rooms you were meant to command. And it hurt them, because they could see what you couldn't. They saw the anointing still resting on your life like morning dew. They saw the strength in your gentleness, the power in your perseverance, the glory in your refusal to quit. When you looked in the mirror and saw failure, they saw a warrior still standing after battles that would have destroyed lesser souls. When you saw wrinkles and age and time slipping away, they saw wisdom etched into every line, grace woven into every gray hair, authority earned through every year of faithful endurance. When you saw ordinary, they saw chosen. Isaiah 43:4 declares, "You are precious and honored in my sight, and I love you." That's not poetry. That's prophecy over your life. And this person has been carrying that word for you, holding it like a flame in the darkness, waiting for heaven to say, "Now." Tell them now. So let me ask you something. What if everything you thought was ending was actually just beginning? What if this moment right now is the hinge on which your entire story turns? What if this confession you're about to receive isn't just about someone's feelings, but about God's confirmation that you are exactly who He says you are? Because here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. When one person sees you the way God sees you, it breaks the curse of invisibility. It shatters the lie that you don't matter. It demolishes the fortress of isolation the enemy built around your heart. And suddenly, you're not just surviving anymore. You're awakening. This person didn't just see your past. They saw your future. They saw the version of you that's about to emerge from this season stronger, clearer, more certain of your calling than ever before. They saw you healed. They saw you whole. They saw you walking in the fullness of everything heaven destined you to become. And they hid that vision in prayer until God said it was time to speak it out loud. That time is now. So I need you to stop running from what's coming. Stop hiding behind the walls you built to protect yourself from disappointment. Stop telling yourself you're too old, too tired, too broken to receive something beautiful, because what's about to be revealed to you isn't just a confession, it's a coronation. It's heaven saying, "You are seen, you are known, you are deeply, profoundly loved, and your story is far from over, but you have to be willing to receive it." Are you ready for what comes next?